Hello, everybody. My name is Jason F. Smith, and I am here with you on the Seeker Aspirant Victim channel. Asher will be joining us any moment. He's just downstairs. He's coming, but I thought I'd get this thing started. But one of the things I like to do, if you guys know me, right, is, well, I am losing it. Where is what I was looking for? Well, sometimes it goes away. Sort by name. Let's do it that way. ST Toothy. Well, we're going to go with this. A little bit of book. So how you been doing this week? Wasted the whole fucking first minute. Anyways, got a little bit of music for you as we're getting into this groove. We've been reading the Done chapter. The Done chapter. Okay, I'll turn that shit down. And what we got going today is finishing up the Done chapter, which Asher is not here, so he is the reader of this book, and he did not mark the place that we ended, which is damn peculiar of him. I think we finished with this poem, and I want to say it again because it's a damn fine poem. And it says, "You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall look through my eyes. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself." So I think that's where we ended on that. And hopefully Asher is actually coming. It takes a little bit of time for him to do. So I'm going to keep reading here, and then we can just dive into this. So sorry, this is a little jerky. I'm not sure why Asher was actually taking so long to walk up this flight of stairs. He was right there 30 seconds ago. Returning to Paul's transition, the analogy of a caterpillar chrysalis butterfly transformation is also apt. We must rely heavily on analogies. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao, and all that. Unlike the newly emerged butterfly, however, the freshly enlightened have no primal instinct to inform and guide them. When I myself went through this experience, I knew it was immense. I knew it was uncommon in the extreme. I knew it was the supreme accomplishment besides which all others pale to insignificance. I could look at or listen to any person and know instantly that they hadn't been through it. And yet, I wasn't to know for years that it was enlightenment. So that's pretty interesting to me. For Jed, he went through this experience all by himself, and he had no touchstone, like he wasn't in a Zen monastery, he wasn't at home. He wasn't with a teacher. He didn't have a guru. This is a guy who really just figured shit out for himself. And you'll notice over and over again that he sends that message to us, and probably has, Jed, I could say, I know you're watching, very little sympathy for anyone who's not willing to figure it out for themselves. Like, do the math, figure it out for yourself. And at the same time, he is drawn to share his experience and help us along a little. Like, if he's just showing what the state is. And so it's pretty cool that he's willing to do that. And he's impressed to do that, so to speak, from the indication of infinite intelligence. One thing this leads to, which is a problem if you ask me, is that because he's not inclined to give us the details, and he's figured out 90% of that shit by himself, it's vague And so one of the reasons that we're going through this is to tighten the screws for people who put it into practice. Now, again, he would warn us, and I've said this many times, huh, Jed, that maybe we're just jerking off here and avoiding the actual hard work. But I would submit, at least at this time, that we're aware of the possibility that that's happening and trying with all our purity of intent to avoid that, so that this process of actually talking to people, which is very few people, is actually something of a process of spiritual autolysis for ourselves, or autolysis. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. We'll get to that process later. We haven't got to it. It's the one practice on how to do this, and we'll talk a lot about that. And it is super vague. Hey man, Asher is just coming. He took a long time to get here because I don't have much time. I'm gonna have to hard stop it here really quick. So it's
not. You said you have
8:30
at 8:30.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
It's 45 minutes.
Get in here. Sit down. So,
I heard you talking. I thought you were just.
No, I'm in the game.
I was just peeing.
Yeah. So he talks about how when Jed went through the process, it was immense. He didn't know what he was doing. And no, there was no teacher, there was no guru, and he literally just had to figure it out for himself.
Yeah, he talks about like the generally totally undirected feeling that he had.
Yeah, which I said, and which is what I was talking about, which that led him to be kind of vague in how because it's kind of like, I figured it out, you can figure it out. I'm designed to tell you a little bit about the process, but I'm not going to baby walk you through it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think he's just an asshole.
That could be too.
The thing is that maybe I just agree with everybody ultimately, because what he created and all the information, everything that this is so wonderful. But the fact that he just leaves out crucial data, it's just almost unforgivable in my opinion. And sometimes when it's like, it's just a result of him not relating to like the egoic state anymore. So then he doesn't know what would be useful. He's just kind of writing what he knows. And it's also about enlightenment. So it was just like a second thought to him.
Yeah. Well, we got to do our own math, don't we? Get in here. You're off screen most of the time. Hello, Sirius. I just got back. What are you guys talking about? Well, oh, fuck. I could answer right here. Finishing the done chapter. Okay. So I'm going to continue reading. He says, damn peculiar. When I finally did put it together, it was very comforting, albeit mind-boggling, earth-shaking, paradigm-shifting realization. I had spent years as a closet butterfly moping around with caterpillars and dreaming highly fictionalized dreams of becoming a butterfly. I knew that I was distinctly different from the caterpillars. I knew that an uncrossable chasm separated us, that I wasn't one of them anymore, that they weren't like me, nor I like they. I knew I was able to communicate with them only in the most superficial sense based on my rapidly fading memories of their language and habits. What it took me a while to understand, though, was that the reason I wasn't one of them anymore was because I was something else, and that the difference was absolute. I had earned admission to a whole new reality, but I hadn't yet passed into it because no one explained to me that this new order of being I had become was what caterpillars meant when they said butterfly. After all, who is there to explain such a thing to someone who doesn't even know enough to ask? Damned peculiar. So this is a theme that he's going to talk about a lot, which is that his state is absolutely different in every way than everyone else's, or except for a few other people.
He tries to be very clear with the absoluteness aspect of it.
Yeah, it is a very absolute, specific change that he is describing, or of state.
I think the reason he does that is because I think that there's a tendency because there's so much looseness with the definition of enlightenment, that you could get some people who, like, maybe their resistance to this would be like, well, they could delude themselves into thinking they're similar when they're not at all. And so he's just trying to, like, cut that off. from the beginning. Totally different. Not the same. At all.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
How is such a state of ignorance and confusion even possible? Simply put, caterpillars are egregiously misinformed on the subject of butterflies, just as we see in the novels and film that humans are egregiously misinformed on the subject of vampires. And who's to correct them? Vampires don't hang out with humans. Humans don't return to educate humans. Vampires don't return to educate humans, don't mingle with humans, don't care one way or another what humans think. Why should they? They're beings of an entirely different order, with only the most superficial similarity to the order of beings to which they once belonged. And that's very much what the Enlightenment thing is like. Instead of vampires and butterflies, just imagine being the only adult in a world of children. Really, imagine how you develop over the years. Imagine how your feelings about children might change. Imagine the person you become. Damned peculiar. What I like about that is he's offering a practice to you right there. Imagine it. I expect that mothers who stay at home with their children probably have a better chance of imagining that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you. I can understand. I like the comparison because he's showing how it's just more. It's more fuel for the contrast. Where he's just saying like that was so lost. Like I had no idea. It was damned peculiar. I had to understand. I mean, I don't know. That's what it is to me. It's just more fuel.
One thing to remember, at least from my point of view, is that I am not in this state, so I don't. Hearing about it as a contextual frame is useful, somewhat, but it only goes so far, which is why Jed does say many, many times, come see for yourself.
Yeah.
It's just not that easy to come see for yourself. That's the problem.
No, and he knows it, so maybe he's just a dick.
How many people actually get this far? How many people are really enlightened? Many claim it, but how many actually are it? I have no idea, but I would guess very few. Some of those in a position to speculate have estimated that 1 in 10,000 take to the idea, and 1 in 10,000 of those actually make it, meaning 1 in 100 million. Thinking worldwide and time-wide, I'd agree that it's in that range, that there are a few dozen truth-realized beings alive on Earth at any time, and how many of those few dozen, like myself, make an effort to assist others, make themselves known? Less. That's quite understandable, really. Once you get past the notion that duality, by any name, is bad, and unity, by any name, is good, you also get past any need to help or save anyone. I, for instance, don't do what I do because I think it needs doing. I am moved by no ethical or altruistic motive. I don't think something is wrong, and that I have to make it right. I don't do it to ease suffering or to liberate beings. I do it simply because I'm so inclined. I have a built-in urge to express what I find interesting, and the only thing I find interesting is the great journey that culminates in abiding, non-dual awareness. I heard that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was very happy with his reclusive life in the foothills of the Himalayas, and that may never have rejoined society, but that he began hearing the name of an Indian city in his head. It simply appeared unbidden in his thoughts. When he finally mentioned it to someone, they advised that the only way to get the name out of the town out of his head was to go there. He did, got swept into a speaking engagement, and the whole transcendental meditation movement grew out of it. That makes sense to me. You observe events, and you allow the flow of things to do the steering, and you go where you go.
I fucking love that story. I always have.
Yeah.
I really like it. I think that I really like that part specifically because it acts as a, like what just spiked in me is that acts as a really great example of something that he kind of put into words. And not really, because he just used like an example and then added words after. He's like, that's just kind of how I see things. Like you just follow things and you follow the flow and go with it. And like just those little things like that, that's what I have always connected to when I, like even when I first read it. So like him communicating the way that he operates.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's
and
got,
how it's like flowy.
yeah.
Because if you subtract all your negative emotion shenanigans and ego bullshit, there's just a natural, pace of the universe. And I like that how he uses those little moments and examples to describe it for a second.
I think there's one in the second.
I connect to that.
There's one in the second book where he sits in the city of New York and says, I'm not moving until I get an idea of where to go.
Yeah.
And ends up going to Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are examples of also the human adulthood state.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, but I think that I'm sorry, I have more to say about it, I guess.
Keep talking.
I think that so he uses the way he like flows through life and travels and just goes from this place, and then he felt like going to this place, then he felt like etc. And it's really, for me, it's always really enticing because it sounds like freedom.
Yeah. Which I know some people would say they're irritated with him because they don't have the money to live that way.
Well, what I was just about to say is that the reason that part of the reason that he was a good choice of the universe, of a person to write this book, is because he chooses to live that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, like even though it's like it's actually a detriment to the actual explanation. What do you mean?
Well, you're way back there. Get closer. I'm turning behind me to see you. There you go. It's too close. It's not too close.
The way that he lives all flowy and like that it's great because it served him in writing the book. But when it doesn't actually serve me, when I read that he lives like that, because I've now had to think about it and process it and come to the realization personally that like he chooses to live like that. Like that, like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go from this thing and go to this thing. Like he could do anything. He could just be sitting, in a house in a cornfield in Iowa. But he's not doing that. He's like purposely choosing to go and do that. But like, it doesn't have to look like that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I'm sure look at Byron and Katie, who I would say that we can probably say pretty safely, I would consider enlightened. She's not doing that. She's fulfilling like a sole focused purpose of doing all her seminars and shit.
Yeah.
Fulfilling all these speaking engagements. See what I'm saying?
But she's driven in that regard.
That's what I'm saying. She chooses to do that.
I don't know that she would. I saw her speak in Salt Lake City, and
or maybe that's just the way she is.
It's just the way it is. There's no choice. This is happening. She even said a comment about her husband and said if for some reason he decided not to support her in this, doing this, she would leave him in an instant. There's no question. She's on this rail. It's not cheating. She's called by the universe to do this. This is what's happening.
Yeah, well, I would say, I don't know, I guess. I would say the Jed, it's not unsimilar to Jed's situation if you applied it, because he feels the same way about the books and the way that it's like, well, if this is the way it has to be, then I'm going to do it on my terms, and his terms is the way, this flowy, ridiculous way that he lives, which allowed him to live a writer's life and go to these places to write these books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then there's Byron Katie, who's also enlightened, who's just drilled in, focused on this one thing that she does. So like, I don't know, that's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. It's worth paying attention to.
I think once they cut the egoic fears away, what's left is the drive, and that's all there is. And Jed has less drive, but he still has this drive. I mean, the universe wrote these books. This is what it was about. The drive was there. When we use the word drive, we often might confuse it with an egoic drive. In this case, it was just simply what was to be done, which is what Byron Katie said. There's just no choice. It's what's to be done. She's not driving the ship. God is, or the universe, or whatever it is, infinite intelligence. It's just happening. But she is surrendered to it completely.
Yeah.
So if someone gets in the way, she's going to go that way. Like, she's on this flow. But it's not an egoic drive.
Yes. That's a good distinction to understand.
Oh, I don't think he thinks too much. He acts on gut feelings kind of thing.
That's true.
He feels like doing something, he just does it. Which other person are you talking about? A lady named Byron Katie. Go check out her work. It's called How
Loving What Is.
Loving What Is. Very useful book.
Byron Katie.
Yep. She goes by Katie. I don't know why she does, but Loving What Is. It's a good book. It's big. She's definitely enlightened, and she's got a number of other books after that go deeper into it. But it's
like BYRON. Katie.
Let me write that down for you.
There you go. Type it.
Byron Katie. Loving What.
You got it.
Okay. What is. Okay. Stop doing that. Okay. So here I am, knowing something that other people want to know, and in this particular instance, being in the right place to say some things that will simplify life for Paul at this point in his journey. There isn't much precedent for a person to stop being one kind of being and start being another, and no one is ever prepared coming into it. It may be absurd to speak of it, but it's far more absurd to live it. If this all sounds exceedingly strange, let me assure you, it is. And it's something I prefer not to let others struggle with when I see them freshly emerge from their 2 years, give or take, of soul-wrenching conflict. So as Paul and I stood in front of the house, and that glorious crystalline night, I was pleased to say to him, welcome. We spent the next hour discussing weird things like vampires and butterflies and solitude and the next day and the next decade. You get the gateless gate thing now, I asked. Oh, he said, as comprehension dawned on him. Ha, he laughed, which is about all you can do. I didn't say anything. I wasn't teaching now. I wasn't trying to draw him out or guide him toward certain realizations. He'd already done it all. I was no longer Paul's teacher. He had destroyed me as his teacher. In a very true sense, he knew every bit as much as I did. Enlightenment isn't like graduating high school only to start college or even finishing college to enter the real world. It's the final graduation. No more hunt, no more chase, no more battle. Now you go out in the world and you do whatever you want. Learn guitar, jump out of airplanes, write books, tend grapes, whatever. Our teacher-student relationship was over. This conversation was just one guy who'd been around a while, showing the new guy the ropes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I like the elegance with which he's drawing this comparison, the story, but I don't. Later on, he'll illuminate his belief that you never choose enlightenment, ever. Like it just happens to you. You can act as if you choose it, and that can help you become a human adult. But if you really take the first step, and I know some people who've read this book at times thought they had taken the first step, and then it retreated back and it came back off of that. I've had times when I thought maybe I had gone over the edge and I'd lost it and I was crazy and I thought, this is it, like I'm going. And then I came back to being human. Very much had an experience like that. And I was like, so it wasn't my time. Either it was ego stopped it or it just wasn't meant to be.
On the flip side of that is that Jed also expresses an awareness of the fact that just treading in these waters at all is dangerous.
Yeah, and he does warn you.
He warns.
Serious.
He talks about it. He says, "What? You should be asking yourself why you're reading books about burning your life down."
And I do get scared sometimes. Really, literally, I have fear about that. But Sirius says something. It happens out of hatred for the false. He'll talk a lot about that. And I think that's why I haven't taken the first step. There's a lot of life that I love.
I like that comment. Hold on.
I really like life, and some of the lies, if they don't bother me, don't bother. I just don't give a shit about them. And when they come up, I hate them. Serious, I hate them. I fucking hate when I'm fear bound. But when I'm not fear bound, I just don't give a shit. And I want to have good time and good experiences and love and magic and live like a human adult.
Both his comment and what you said are really important, because you said it happens out of the hatred for the false. I guess that maybe I feel like they're connected in some way. They don't have to be, but hatred makes me think of anger. Like hatred and anger, at least on the energetic spectrum, are close to each other, I think. But the point I'm getting to is that they're fiery emotions, and Jed talks about how fiery emotions like anger and hatred that's the best fuel you can have. So he's right when he says it comes from hatred from the false, because I think that realistically, the thing that would probably actually spike you into, maybe spark you over something, would be something that made you the most angry you've ever been.
Yeah, but when I
like an anger that would then like snap something that would then be like that causes a process.
So let me describe my process for you and see what you think about this. I'm on the hunt for my fears, and how I do it at this stage of the game is I look for bodily things. And so I'll be talking with someone and they'll say something, and like they'll just say something and it'll trigger me. I look for a trigger, like a bodily trigger. And as soon as I feel a bodily trigger, I dig into that. And I tear it apart in a process that I go through that gets me to the root of the fear there. Because I can really trust my body in this sense. If I flinch, and I'm not talking about flinching like if a lion jumps out at me. I'm talking, you're talking with someone, or you see someone do something, or you hear something on the news, and anytime those subtle things start to happen, or thoughts that cause me to close, I know that I'm closing in fear, that I'm creating a separation. And so I dig into that fear. And once I illuminate that fear, it comes up. So maybe Asher says something to me and it hurts my feelings. And so I'll go into that and I'll tear it down, and I'll do the spiritual autolysis process that we'll teach you more as we go here, tearing it apart, and I'll find the fear in it. And it's the fear of being judged, or it's the fear of being kicked out of the tribe, or it's the fear. And I'll look at my attachment to the belief, and I don't care what I'm believing, because I attach to any belief to keep myself from drowning in the pool of no self. And I'm getting wordy here, and then I just rip it apart. I lighten it up. I usually write it on a piece of paper and burn it up outside under the sunlight. And I'm just layer after layer. When I see the fear that I love out of fear, that I am hooking into people, manipulating them, that if they don't do what I want them to do, it scares me. And then I say, hey, why don't you do this? And I don't say it because I want them to do it. I say it because I'm afraid. Then I get pissed off, because I do not want any action I do to be based on fear. But here's the issue where I think I'm separate. Once I finish killing a fear, and then I practice walking without it, I'm kind of fine. And I read a piece last night in the second book, Spiritual Incorrect Enlightenment. There's a lot of stuff in there about Julie. So Julie goes through this process. You'll meet her later in this book here. Anyway, she sends in a lot of her material to Jed. He reprints it. At one place, she talked about how happy she is. She's just happy. And so when I kill a fear, I do feel happy. I'm kind of skippy. But the problem is that I don't manically, psychotically go back into the next fear.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens eventually. And if I don't do something about it, if I don't practice and look at the fear with mental sword fights, I could just push it aside.
Yeah.
It doesn't consume me. I don't have to deal with it.
Yes, that would probably be a really good distinctive difference between Like you know you're not in that state, because if you were in that state, you would not be able to not then continue on anyway.
Exactly. And so I act as if your words that you said about a month ago, act as if you have taken the first step. And that's what I do. So the fear comes up and I just spend an hour typing and writing and burning and go after that motherfucking fear. That's my practice. I go after it. I do it. And more fears come up than I can kill. They do. They just come up. I have tenderness in my stomach. I wonder if I'm going to end up fucking going to the hospital. I hope not.
You're hypochondriacing about possible appendicitis.
Mm-hmm. For the last 2 months. But now it's as tender as it's ever been, except for maybe down in California.
2 months. Sounds like it's not appendicitis.
Yeah.
Because who knows?
Okay, we got some questions here. Happens out of hatred. So I feel like you won't hate those things. You'll be more aware and more grateful for being alive. You understand the false and not identify with it, I guess. By the false, I mean the ego. I agree with that. You know, when I'm in a good state, I'm fine. I don't feel fired up. When I become aware of the fear, I go after it. I really hate that. But if the fears leave me around, I guess I just don't have the same fucking violent hatred of being alive, of being a lie. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it, but I am thinking that basically, we really should pay attention. It is kind of not a stupid warning that, if you're sitting around saying, oh, I don't have that motivation, I don't have that, I'm not doing it. It's like, well, think about the thing, the situation that would have to occur for you to be in that state, because for you to be in that state, you would have had to have lost, shit would have had to have gone wrong or bad, you'd subtract. More than likely, you just subtract yourself from the situation entirely or whatever. But things would have to go bad. So us doing this is still, genuinely, I don't know. There's a risk. There's a risk.
No. And one thing I could say, maybe in the integrated state, so if I've got a bellyache, right, then it has to be for a reason. So it's not wrong. The question would be what? Why? But what brings up? It brings up fear. The bellyache brings up fear.
Interesting.
Bodily fear, like super, I'm gonna die fear.
There's I happen to be reading, or just finished reading, Think and Grow Rich, which I'm basically kicking myself repeatedly for not having read earlier in my life.
I probably told you to read it. Riley's read it.
Fucking ridiculous that I did not. I would have connected with it earlier. Anyway, I'm gonna have to reread it many, many more times. But something that I really like about Napoleon Hill is he'll take the time to kind of create categories and lists. And so he'll be like the seven worst, deadliest fear traps, basically. And one of them is fear of ill health.
That's in there? No. I usually just don't have that. I've been really healthy, and now I don't know. So yeah. See, in the context of living a good life, being sick doesn't work for me. In the context of growing up, might be. In which case, I might be getting what I asked for, right? Because I want to grow up. So that's an interesting fucking question. Wouldn't be wrong, right? So.
Yeah, that's hard because you're not wrong, but then it's so complicated. It feels like it's muddied. But you're right about it. I just don't know. I don't know. You're right. Anyway, you should try to, I don't know.
Okay.
Relax a little bit, man.
Relax.
What is the next chapter?
The next chapter is called The Savage Rocks of Eternal Mind, so we'll pick up on that next week. It is 8:11. You want me to start this? Here.
I wouldn't mind.
Okay. The Savage Rocks of Eternal Mind.
I could read it.
Do you want to read it? Okay. We've got 4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Or 5. Or 6.
The savage rocks of eternal mind. Seizing my life in your hands, you thrashed it clean on the savage rocks of eternal mind. How its colors bled until they grew white. You smile and sit back. I dry in your sun. Rumi.
Let me read that. That didn't make any sense to me. Seeing my life in your hands, Asher, you thrashed it clean on the savage rocks of eternal mind. So who is he talking about? Who is your hands? God's hands? The universe's hands? Right?
I'm just triggered that you took it out of my hands. I gotta be honest with you.
Okay, good. Good. That's false. He's afraid of something. Seizing my life in your hands. He's talking to the universe. Seizing my life in your hands.
You just read through the whole thing
Right?
once.
You thrashed it clean, the life on savage rocks of eternal mind. How its colors bled until they grew white. You smile and sit back. I dry in your sun. He's talking to the universe. The universe fucking killed him. Savagely scrubbed him clean. Maybe that's why my stomach is feeling bad. To be scrubbed fucking clean. Maybe that's why I took the book from you, to fucking make you feel savagely clean. Rumi is talking to the infinite universe.
Seizing my life.
Okay, Asher, he says, I can understand, Asher. We're young. We want to enjoy life more, and there's nothing wrong with that. Truth can be something we think about later.
Jed says that.
Yeah, why not enjoy it for a while, right? Until you have
He
to.
gives that advice. Go read what's the one where he's in the cabin? Is it Dream State?
Mm-hmm.
He's in the cabin up at Lisa's.
Yeah,
and he talks
Dream
to
State.
Maggie again.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's wonderful. All right. You know, why don't we just end it, because we have 2 minutes. No reason to start reading the first chapter.
Okay. So everybody, it's been a joy talking to you.
Yeah.
Usually we're going to go longer. I think we keep saying that, but unfortunately I have a client call coming up at 8:30, which is 15 minutes from now, so I have to prepare for that.
We're gonna genuinely go longer next week.
Yeah, we will. And we'll start earlier. Actually, it's harder for you because you'll work later at night when the sun's up, right?
I just plan on coming right here after work instead of going home first.
That's okay. And then we'll just do it later. So I know some of you got to go to bed. And for those of you who joined us now, thank you for joining us. For those who join us later, thank you as well. Type up some comments. We will answer your questions as best we can if we have the time and the space, and it is indicated.
Have a good night.